to our first speaker, who's Yvan Bourgon, who's the president and founder of the SeaCleaners. And Yvan is a true adventurer and really an amazing sailor who holds several world records and has pushed sailing to the limits, I would say. He founded the SeaCleaners, and he is now the chairman to take on the challenge of developing solutions to tackle plastic pollution in the seas. So Yvan, we're really excited that you are here and look forward to hearing from you. Over to you.
Thank you very much. It's a big pleasure to share this moment with you, and we are very grateful to have this opportunity to present the MONTA project and the SeaCleaners Association. For sure, we heard a lot about EBI conviction. We know that pollution, marine pollution, and raising awareness, you are very concerned about these problems. So very happy to share this problem with you. Just to explain my first experience, as you say, I am a sailor, and I had the chance to do a circumnavigation around the world with my parents. It was beginning of the 80s. So for sure, at this time, the ocean was very clear, no problem at all. And unfortunately, during my career, I discovered all these containers at the top of on the surface of the oceans. And particularly in 2014, I did again this circumnavigation with this little beach catamaran, this Obicat. And when I sail alone along the Indonesia islands, Sri Lanka, Maldives, I discovered completely this pollution. I had to pick up this plastic, but for sure, my little boat couldn't do it. It was not enough. And when I came back from this trip after 1.5 years with my team, we decided to launch the association The SeaCleaners, and really to act and to work with these problems, and particularly for the plastic. And so for sure, it was absolutely normal to have a big part working on the land. So with awareness, with some project directly where the problem is. But we think also if there is a solution to collect the plastic, and at this time in 2015, nobody talked about this, only some little ONG and NGO. And when we collect the data from scientific, we knew at this time that it was we had a good opportunity, because we have about 20 rivers in the world who have 65% of this pollution. So we knew that we didn't need to collect the plastic everywhere in the oceans. We had to go directly at the good place where the concentration is there. And so in the mouth of the rivers is probably the best place for that. And after 2 years of collecting that, doing some studies for the boat, we had a good result. We found the solution, the technical solution to collect the plastic. And Frédéric Silver, my director, will explain you all the details after this presentation. But for sure, we really want today to launch the first boat in 2025, but it's not enough. We want really to have this opportunity to convince also the politics, because actually the politics in Europe, we know that you talk a lot with Europe, with community, and we know that these people think that all the problem needs to be resolved only on the land, and too much part of the money go on the problem in Europe, but not enough in Southeast Asia and soon in Africa, because this pollution will be too much more in 2050, 2060. We have 10 million tons of plastic going on the ocean right now, but it would be 30 million tons in 2060. So it's difficult to imagine to stay with crossed arms and doing nothing. It's not responsible. So now we have this opportunity to have these boats, and Frederic will present you also the solution with the modular, the little boat we have also to go in rivers and in airborne. So we have few solutions adapt where the pollution is. So we are very proud to act with that. Today we have a team with 30 persons, with 1,000 volunteers. We are in Germany, in Switzerland, in Belgium, in Spain, and we start the first project in Indonesia this year in Java Island, with the first modular in action there. So this project will grow up, and we will have probably much more projects next year. And so we want really to complete, because you have already some associations, some NGO who do a very good job in Java or Bali, etc. But they don't have this solution to collect also in the rivers and oceans. So we arrive with the complementary solution. That's a very good point. So yes, I saw now we can continue the presentation, and thank you very much to share this moment with you.
Thank you very much, Ivan, and certainly we are proud to have you as partners of EBI. But I think you mentioned very well the extent of the issue that you saw when you were sailing around, but also the numbers that we have now, the seriousness of the issue of plastic pollution in the world oceans. I think it's very clear that we need to do something about it. And indeed, you mentioned already a connection to our next speaker, which is Andrea Stracinescu from the European Commission, from the Director General for Maritime Affairs. And Ivan, you already mentioned the role of policy and the role of the European Union in tackling plastic pollution on land and on sea. So Andrea, we're really looking forward to hearing what you have to say. I know you've prepared a presentation, so you should be able to display that. So Andrea, I would hand over to you in that case.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm just trying to see how I share my presentation. Okay, just a moment, if you allow me. Still, there are a lot of things on my screen, which I do not know why, and I do not see my PowerPoint. Let's see if I can, yes, now. It's okay, you can see it?
We can see it, not yet in full screen mode, but
yes,
we can see it.
It will be. Okay, now it's okay?
Perfect.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, first of all, for the invitation. And I would like to briefly present you what we are doing at European Union level in order to tackle marine litter. Because it's really an important problem, and you will see that there is, I would say, enough legislation in place, some of them already from a time around, and some initiatives coming as well in order to support this. Now, of course, around this, there is place for, I would say, projects, there is place for activities to be developed around. Because there is a lot of damage coming from this, and also we need to better monitor all the problem related to marine litter. And for this as well, in order to support tackling the marine litter and all the activities related also to monitoring, there are initiatives in place and additional funding to come beyond the one that was allocated until now. So in terms of plastic pollution, probably in the sea, it's one of the topics which really benefited, I would say, from an intensive communication. And images like this one that it's on my slide, I think everybody probably saw them. It's a real danger. In the same time, we see that there is a huge amount of plastic entering in the sea every year with a really huge cost, environmental cost, for the whole marine ecosystem, because affected there's not only all the marine ecosystem and all the living creatures of the sea, but also it affects the tourism, it affects as well the activity of the fishermen, it affects the general, I would say, economy. So fishing gear, it's posing quite a lot of problem, I would say, and looking at the litter that was found at sea in the recent impact assessment that were done by the Commission for the Single-Use of Plastic Directive, it was obviously noted that fishing gear is the item which is mostly present at sea for as litter. I will come to this a little bit later. So where is all in the, I would say, in the ambition of this Commission? So when this college started at the end of 2019, the Green Deal was announced. So this is the ambition of the Commission to decarbonize by 2050, but as well to address all, I would say, the challenges that we are facing, pollution included, and as well linked to this circular economy. So the part of link it to the industrial policy for a clean and circular economy, but also to be able to have, I would say, and to put in place a pollution-free environment for water, soil, and air, with a recently announced last week Zero Pollution Action Plan. So around this, I would say probably the blue, the marine litter, it's quite a blind spot. But if you look at all the initiatives, it's in there. So we can do a lot, I would say, based on Green Deal, also in terms of financing the activities, but also to mobilize research and innovation when needed around. First of all, the Circular Economy Action Plan, that was the first one being announced in March 2020. And here, of course, again, the accent, of course, put on the sustainable product, but to try to decouple the economic growth for the resource use with a well-known reduce, reuse, and recycle. Then, what I would like to mention is the package of legislation that already addresses the marine litter. It's quite, I would say, an old directive, the urban wastewater, because here and currently it's under revision, considering quite the time during which it was in place. It's related more, mostly, of course, it says with the wastewater, but here, of course, in terms of marine litter, it's the link with the items that can be improperly flushed and they can be found in the sea. Then the packaging directive, that is establishing recovery and recycling targets for member states with the obligation to encourage the use of packaging. Then the Marine Strategy Framework Directive, which as well it's under revision, and it fixes, I would say, the level of ambition for the member states to reach the good environmental status and to develop threshold values for marine litter. We are now more than 10 years after, and we can see that still, I would say, it's there is place still to be done in order to reach this good environmental status, and more level of ambition to come when this directive, that the revision of this directive is going to start soon. Then the Waste Framework Directive, it's looking at the municipal waste, and it's fixing recycling target for this, but also for the plastic packaging waste. So targets are fixed for the recycling of waste. I would say level of ambition is fixed. Sometimes it's not really happening, and we need to see how we are putting this in practice. Now, the most recent one piece of legislation, there are rules related to the single use of plastic. And why marine litter is addressed here, I mentioned previously, and this is the impact assessment that found when this directive was worked on, was proposed. This impact assessment found that most of the litter that it's found at the sea level, it's the fishing gear. So what we are going to do on this, of course, already it's approved through the Commission decision, an implementing act in order to start developing a circular design, to design a circular standard for a circular fishing gear. So circularity of the fishing gear, it's already, I would say, the work kick off to develop this. And then, of course, we need to work with the member states and to see what is the fishing gear that is placed on the market, and as well, what is the fishing gear that is collected as waste. So quite strong accent on this. Then the Port Reception Facility Directive from the same year, there are as well provisions that are linked to the marine litter and the delivery of waste from ships, including the separate collection of waste, the passively fished one, which also includes the fishing gear. How we monitor what is happening in terms of litter? First of all, well-known Copernicus, satellite measurement, but also looking on how elements linked to marine safety, coastal, marine and coastal environment, resources, weather, are among the objectives. But when all of these are measured, Copernicus can also detect the plastic solution. There are different, I would say, there are different elements because there is the numerical modeling, there is the satellite monitoring, in situ monitoring. Nevertheless, Copernicus cannot alone, I would say, do this job. And there are other, I would say, either application or initiatives upcoming. So Destination Earth, it's going to develop a high precision digital model on Earth, trying, of course, to integrate the elements linked to marine litter. And it's going to build not only on Copernicus, but also on EMONET. So EMONET, European Maritime Observation Data Network, we are doing a monitoring of beach litter. And we have as well a level of ambition to improve all this observation in terms of how we can engage, of course, the citizen in collecting of data relating to litter that can be found on beaches. And another element which is quite important is also the fact that we are proposing an improved way of collaboration among different actors that are involved in ocean observation, because they can be quite diverse. Observation can be done for research, environmental, for fisheries, for hydrographical purposes, and working all of them better together, we can improve the observation of the ocean, litter included. Now, in terms of funding, we are starting this year an additional cycle of funding for 7 years. And we have different, I would say, sources that can be used. European Maritime and Fisheries Fund, which now it's becoming European Maritime Fisheries and Aquaculture Fund, already supported fishing for litter, and it's going to continue to support, but as well Blue Invest, that support innovative solution for sustainable blue economy through assistance for the project, innovative projects that are going to reach the, are close to reach the market. We support them, or either co-investment under InvestEU, co-investment with EIF, and we are going to have an amount which is going to be more than 100 million per year. Private equity, so it will be under the form of equity. So it's quite an important amount of money that will be available through InvestEU for the sector, including, of course, addressing the litter problem. Horizon Europe, if we look from the perspective of funding research and innovation, here we are going to have the mission area healthy ocean, seas, coastal and inland waters. And of course, pollution is going to be tackled because it's one important, I would say, element that is affecting how the health of our seas, the health of our ocean and even rivers. And also all the level of support that can be given through European Innovation Council to, I would say, individual companies. It's the former SME instrument, and this is going, of course, to try to identify, to develop, and to scale up breakthrough technologies and disruptive innovation. And not to be forgotten, the state aid schemes for RDI, which were already in place because they were adopted in 2014. I would say there is an important source of funding available there, for all of you having interesting proposals in terms of addressing the litter, have just a look of the ones which are, I would say, most appropriate. Either if you group in an, I would say, quite impressive and cross-country projects in terms of funding can be either Horizon Europe, if you look for the research. Do not forget that at the level of individual countries, there are also the cross-border projects that can be put in place through cohesion policy and of course, structural funds. Interreg is going as well to address an important, I would say, an important source of funding for looking at this. And if there are any questions and if there are any suggestions, or you are interested, you have a good solution in this, and you would like to have more information, please do not hesitate to get in contact with us. This is I wanted to present briefly. I don't know if there is time to take any question. I see one on the chat, probably to look what kind of data collection can citizens provide in order to add monitorable coastal litter. There is a good initiative that exists already at the level of rivers. It's an AMPER project that was in Horizon 2020. You can find it and you can see a little bit that the citizens contributed to see where are the blockage points on rivers based on this. There are citizen initiatives that can provide useful information. And if you are involved in one of these, do not forget that I mentioned Emonet. We have an ingestion portal that allows all the information to be fed in. And if there is probably some, if you consider that is not user friendly or you like to have more information on this, please do not hesitate to get in contact with us. We are really extremely interested to work with citizen initiatives, and for Horizon and for the Mission Europe, this will be one important critical point in order to implement our projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Andrea, and thank you for the presentation. It was really interesting to hear the different elements, the size of the problem, the initiatives, the legislation that exists, but also in practice, what can citizens do, what can projects like the SeaCleaners do to be involved in this huge challenge that we all have in Europe and also at the global level. And I think the citizen science element, the engagement of citizens, but also, for example, tourists and specifically boaters in our case, I think offers a lot of potential to identify where the real problems are and also to tackle them. I think that's very interesting to hear. Thank you very much, Andrea. I know you have to leave in a couple of minutes. So
yes, thank you.
Already. But I think this is a perfect time to hand over back to the SeaCleaners to really hear the details about this amazing ship that is being built in the next couple of years. So I would like to hand over to Frédéric Souvert, who is the technical director of the SeaCleaners, to tell us a bit more about the Manta. So Frédéric, over to you.
Thank you, Philippe. So it's a pleasure to be with you this morning. Can you see my presentation?
We cannot see it yet, no. Okay, now we can see it.
Can you see my presentation?
Yes, if you put it on full screen.
Okay, sorry for that. I have a bad connection. It is now on full screen. It's a very long time lapse.
Frédéric, I think it would be good if you could switch off your camera, then the connection might be a bit better.
Thank you.
Okay, now we can see the presentation in full screen mode. Let's try.
Okay.
It's good, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I will present you the development we made for our ship, the Manta ship. So first, we developed the Manta ship to fulfill the 4 missions we have internally in the SeaCleaners NGO. First is to clean the oceans, then it is to raise awareness in the countries we will be sailing and cleaning the sea. Then it develop and also to share scientific knowledge. And finally, it's to use that boat as a demonstration platform for the technologies. And to do that, the ship had to be big. It is over 55 meters long, over 25 meters wide, and it is over 60 meters high to have very large sails. We'll talk about that a bit later. And the ship will be operating in the mainly Southeast Asia, where we can find 8 out of the 10 most polluting rivers in the world. We will not be focusing, as Yvon explained, on the big plastic patches that are in the middle of the oceans, because it is very difficult to capture. And we will rather concentrate in the river mouths and in the coastal areas where plastic is very concentrated and it is easier to collect. So we had to, for that, to face different challenges. The first challenge was to maximize the waste collection. We have developed 4 different waste collection systems. The first system is based on, but that a bit later.
And unfortunately, the connection is breaking off a bit.
Sucked and easily at 1 meter depth.
The connection is a bit patchy.
Yes.
We can't fully hear you.
Okay.
What we will do is maybe you can continue speaking. We'll share the presentation from our side. You just tell us when to continue. Then hopefully the bandwidth on your end is strong enough to support the sound.
You want me to stop sharing the screen?
Yeah, you stop sharing the screen and we will share your presentation from our side.
Okay, very good.
You can continue talking already and we'll share the presentation. No problem.
So yes, no problem. So for the inclined conveyors, we decided to go 1 meter deep, so that it is a very that's a good compromise to collect as much floating waste without impacting marine life. So if we move now to the next slide, Philippe, we have also developed satellite boats, multi-purpose collecting boats. These are the boats called Mobula that Yvon talked about just previously. So these boats are already ready to operate, and they should be sent to Indonesia in the year to come. And as you can see, they are on board the Manta ship in slipways that are accommodated at the rear of the ship. One boat is dedicated for a collection in calm waters, so basically small rivers, harbor areas, and the other ship is a bit more powerful, and it will be collecting waste in very large rivers with strong currents and also in coastal areas. If we move to the next slide. What we have finally developed, Philippe? Yeah, thank you. So we have developed a net collecting system. The net collecting system allows us to increase the width up to 6 meters. We still collect only waste floating, not deeper than 1 meter, so that we are not life again. And what you can also see is there are telescopic cranes at the rear of the ship, one at starboard, one at port side, to collect the fishing gears, the fishing nets, the ghost nets that Andrea was talking about previously. We can move to next slide. So the second challenge we had to face was to respect the environment, because we do not want to fight against sea pollution and then to pollute the atmosphere. So that was not making sense. And so we tried to design what we call now a green ship. So let's move to the next slide, please. The main feature to make our ship green are, of course, the rigs, which are automated rigs, and that they provide us with over 1,500 square meters of sails. This allows us to sail when we have only with the sails when we have sufficient wind speeds, and when it is not sufficient, we develop hybrid propulsion mode, coupling the motors and the sails. We also have on the ship over 500 square meters of solar panels, 2 wind turbines, and also hydro generators that allows us, when we are sailing with a wind, to generate electricity. And last but not least, we also have developed a waste to electricity, or waste to energy, I should say, conversion unit that allows us to use the waste to provide electricity on board and also heat. We can move to next slide. So the third challenge was to optimize the energy management by developing new features in the power management system of the ship, and to make the ship a smart ship, basically. And this is done through the PMS, but it was also done through the choice of the materials to reduce the weight of the ship. We also developed residual heat recovery system, basically, so that all the heat that is generated on board can be used for heating, air conditioning, electricity production. And final features that is interesting is the new routing system that allows us to select the route we want to use in order to minimize energy consumption and maximize renewable energy production. We can move to the next slides. All that we had to do it while having a very large capacity for basically a workship. We have a 34 persons accommodation capacity, and we also have a conference room that can also be used for running workshops on board, that is over 60 square meters, in addition to the sun deck that is in the center of the ship. We can move to the next slide. About scientific installations, so we can welcome up to 12 scientists on board for 3 weeks, 3 weeks being the duration of the collection campaign. And on board, we have an office and meeting room that is dedicated for scientific activity, also analysis room. And at the rear of the ship, you can see that we have laboratories that are included into containers. And here you can see the sketch of 2 containers, a wet laboratory and a dry laboratory on top of the wet laboratory. Okay, we can move to next slide. So for the fourth challenge was to manage all the waste that was collected by the ship. So we developed onboard factory for waste treatment. And basically we have two solutions. You can move to next slide. Either we can treat and store all the plastic we have collected if during the stopover in the harbor there are facilities that can recycle the plastic, or alternatively, if there is nothing, we can convert 100% of the plastic into energy. You can move to next slide, please. Doing so, we are able to operate the ship that is a real working ship with a very low carbon footprint, and even reduce energy consumption and fuel consumption by using the plastic we collect. And you can move to the last slide, please. Okay, so putting all that together, we are able to operate during campaigns that can last as long as 3 weeks. We can also cross any ocean because in addition to collect waste in the river mouths, we are also able to cross the ocean to intervene when there is a tsunami or a hurricane, to collect the waste that is concentrated in that area and that will not stay in that area. So we have to be quick. And we are able to collect almost 24 hours a day. Basically, it's roughly 10 hours during the day and 10 hours at night, 7 days a week, and that during 3 weeks. So thank you for your attention, and now we can move to the question and answer session.
Thank you very much, Frédéric. It's really impressive to see and hear all of your plans and this Manta. I cannot wait until 2025, I think it is, to actually see it out on the water. It's really interesting. So thank you very much for the presentation. And yes, now we move to the Q&A, and if there's any questions, please put them into the chat or the Q&A box, and I will ask them to our colleagues from the SeaCleaners. Also, if you would like to present an initiative or something, then we can also get you on screen to do that for 1 or 2 minutes. I have one question that we received in advance, which is maybe to Ivan. How is this funded? How do you get the money for this amazing project?
In fact, like any kind of association, we start from nothing. In fact, it was just an idea, and we start with crowdfunding in France. We had the biggest crowdfunding in environmental environment. So it was a good start in 2016. And but we progressed very fast, yes, because a lot of companies follow us. We have actually now about 60 companies from Switzerland, Belgium, Germany, and yes, it's a project that companies love to support. And actually now we collect about a third of the part of what we need for the first Manta boat, and so we have two more years to collect the second part, and during the construction in 2024, we will be able to find the last part.
Thank you, Ivan. There's a question here from Daniel Engler, maybe to our technical person at the SeaCleaners, to Frédéric. How is the waste captured from the nets? How do you get it onto the ship?
Basically, we use all the equipment that is currently used on fishing boats, but basically instead of capturing fish, we just capture waste. We selected the equipment that were already developed, and the main for, let's say, winches and cranes and things like that. What we developed specifically were the nets, because we just need to basically capture what is really floating at the sea surface, and doing so with as less drag as possible, so that we can minimize energy consumption, basically. Also, we took a lot of attention during the development to have what we called escape traps, so that the fish, if there were any, could escape from the nets, because we do not want to compete with the fisher in those locations. So we paid a lot of attention to that.
Okay, thank you. And then now to directly have another question here from Jean-Baptiste. Where will you go first? Where is the first area where the Manta will go and intervene?
So in first, we would move to we would go to the Mediterranean Sea. This is a very practical move, let's say. So there are pollution problems, but they are not as acute as the ones we can meet in Southeast Asia. The reason why we want to go there is also to commission our ship. We know that you've seen that it is a very innovative ship, and we expect to have some debugging periods to face. So we'll do that close to our base headquarters, and we are working mainly with European suppliers today. So it would be easier for us also to solve any technical issue if it happens. Mm-hmm. And then we would very quickly move to Southeast Asia. Our first target would be Indonesia, that is very severely impacted by plastic pollution and that is welcoming any international help.
Okay, fantastic. That's great to hear. Where will the vessel be built? That's a question from Peter Franklin.
We do not know yet where it is going to be built. The request for proposal, maybe you could talk about that, Valérie, if you want. So the request for quotation is currently running, and we had the first round of quotation. It was mainly focused on European shipyards. We are a bit limited by the shipyard capacities because you've seen that the ship is quite big. We were also proposed to have the hulls built in what is called low-cost countries, and then have the equipment installed in, let's say, Western Europe. So we have different options, and we will be running a second request for quotation round by the end of this year or beginning of next year, because we are integrating a last package of technologies inside the board, inside the ship. Sorry. So this will be a good time to launch quotation.
Okay. Thank you, Frédéric. And there's a lot of questions coming in on how to be involved. How do you have a partner for the solar panels and all of that? How to start a branch of the SeaCleaners in some countries? I think we will leave those questions to the end for Valérie to respond. We will be presenting about that at the end anyway on how to be involved. One thing that's interesting, I think, is to also connect to existing initiatives in European countries and also outside of Europe, and on clean and healthy oceans. And there was a request from Celia Tege from Spain, from Mallorca, to briefly present what they are doing there, and then we can take that maybe as an example, as a case study on how to involve local initiatives. So we're trying to bring Celia Tege into this virtual room as a panelist. So I hope she will join us now. And then we can hear from Celia, and then maybe Valérie, you can take that up and see how we can connect to local initiatives. So, Celia, are you with us?
Yes, I am now.
Ah,
so
perfect.
I kicked out and I'm back.
Fantastic.
Okay.
So tell us, what are you doing in Mallorca?
Yes, we as CITIS, we started last year the initiative called Clean Boating, and we now changed it into a known association. The idea of clean boating is it's a lot closer to home and a lot smaller than the SeaCleaners, which I'm really in awe of. The idea is to reduce plastic litter by involving the boaters directly. So if pleasure boaters are going out on their boats, we are connecting to them. We provide them with buckets and nets and ask them to fish out plastic when they are at anchor or driving along. If they see anything. And then we started it first here in our little port of Calador, but we will expand all across Mallorca and hope to further expand across Europe. The idea is to then put into the port special bins where we are collecting the plastic. And the long-term aim is to find a circular way of using this plastic to bring it back into the boating industry to upcycle what's been fished out in the first place. So that's the whole cycle of it. But yeah, first of all, now the idea is to get boaters all active to fish out plastic when anyway out boating.
Okay, thank you very much, Sarah. That's really fascinating to hear, and congratulations on that initiative. And maybe in a couple of minutes, Valerie can pick that up when she's presenting about the opportunities for involvement. So thank you, Celia. There's just one or two questions because there are so many questions coming in on the technical side. So I do want to take up one or two of those. So maybe, Frederic, if you have 2 more minutes to respond to a couple of the questions in the Q&A. So for example, the question of how long do you have to stay in the harbor after a 3-week mission? What about emissions from the waste incineration? How will you deal with that?
Okay, so target is, if you remember, we have 4 missions, and the one mission is to raise awareness during the stopovers. So basically, if we only had to unload waste and then take the food and water and fuel to go back to collect waste, we would only have to stay basically 2 to 3 days, not more. Because we have raising awareness missions, we expect to stay around 1 week for each stopover. The target is to make as many stopovers as possible to raise awareness in as many countries as possible also. So this is to answer your first question. And then second, how to reduce emissions. The best way to reduce emission is not to consume fuel, and so to sail basically with our rigs. When it is not possible, we'll of course have fume treatment units as it is requested. And also about the waste to energy conversion unit, we have selected a pyrolysis process that allows to produce a lot of heat and also capture part of the carbon to lower the footprint. So we have solid waste at the end of the pyrolysis process that is called char. Basically, it's like coal, and this can be recycled when we go at the stopovers. We can unload that, and then it can be treated and valorized.
Okay, thank you very much. There's one last question from Peter Franklin that I do want to take about cooperating with other projects, one called the Ocean Cleanup, the Interceptor project. Maybe that's a question more for Valerie or for Yvonne on how that cooperation will work.
I can answer that. It's Valerie. Actually, well, what we say is that there is enough plastic in the sea, unfortunately, for everyone to work. So all the technical solutions are very welcome, actually. And we believe that the solution that we offer with the Manta is very complementary to what Ocean Cleanup is doing. The difference mainly is that the Manta is a mobile solution, as Frederic just presented. So we are able to go towards the plastic pollution in a way. So while ocean cleanup is more a static technological solution, so both of them, I think, have the values, have some qualities, and can work completely in symbiosis in a way. And actually, I just want also to mention one thing, is that we do have an international scientific advisory board with the SeaCleaners, and we are lucky enough to have Laurent Le Breton, who is the scientific director of Ocean Cleanup, who is part of our board as well. So, you know, we are sharing data, we are sharing information, and we are very, very happy with that.
Fantastic. Thank you, Valerie. And immediately I will hand back the floor on the presentation to you, Valerie, to give us a bit of information, as a short presentation on how boaters, how companies and other stakeholders can be involved in the partnership that EBI and the SeaCleaners have. So please, Valerie, over to you.
Thank you. Okay. Frédéric told you a little bit a few minutes ago that we have 4 missions to fulfill. And we are lucky enough that we do not stand alone in our fight against plastic pollution and to tackle those huge technical challenges with the MANTA. We have a number of partners, and you can see a few of the logos here on the screen, a number of companies and research centers helping us in putting together the MANTA and handling those challenges. So they help us in our research and development efforts, in the studies and in the development of the MANTA on the different technological bricks, whether it's the onboard energy management system, the automated rigs, the collection systems, the waste to energy unit. And if we go to the next slide, you will see some more. We also have those companies working for us in the naval architecture, for the hydro generators, and everything related to the life cycle analysis of the boat and all the technical and economic studies of the boat as well. So in total, there are about more than 20 partners now, more than 20 companies, and 5 research centers working with us. And we believe that there is room for more, actually, and that this is the message I want to convey to you, to the boaters who are listening to this presentation. And if we move to the next slide, I can give you a bit more details about that. We believe that there are opportunities for involvement for the EBI members and for boaters in general, even though we understand that there is a difference between the recreational boating industry or business and the MANTA, which will be a workboat and a factory boat. We believe that some of the requirements needed for the MANTA will need some of the know-how and expertise that the EBI members can provide. So Frédéric just told you that the shipyard RFP is ongoing. So obviously a lot of the things that will be needed on board the MANTA will be decided by the shipyard and subcontracted by the shipyard. But we do have already some needs that still need to be fulfilled. In terms of classification studies, in terms of acoustic studies, in terms of vibration studies. So everybody listening to this presentation who wants to be involved in that is very welcome to contact us and to help us to provide skill-based sponsorship. Because it's important, just like Yvon mentioned earlier, even though we have this huge technological challenge to achieve, we still are an NGO. So we still need some more help in terms of pro bono work, skill-based and in-kind sponsorship mainly. So this is what I want to say today. In terms of in-kind sponsorship, we are still looking for partners to help us with the paint systems, the life-saving systems, firefighting, gensets, electrical systems, batteries, heat exchangers, heat recovery systems, sewage treatment, water treatment, lifting systems, deck equipment, the doors, the navigation equipment, and HVAC and refrigeration system. So if anyone wants to be involved with that, you're very welcome. And if they want to join a pioneering adventure, just like the MANTA, we are, feel free to contact us. Just going to the next and last slide. Oops, it's a bit interrupted. We well, we welcome, SeaCleaners welcome any help that the industry can provide, but we also have a few services that we can offer back. We are, with all our sponsors, we want to develop a true relation and a true partnership. So we offer some services in return for all this kind help that people can provide. So obviously, people can contribute to the fight against plastic pollution in general, not only through in-kind or nature partners sponsorship, just like I explained, but also just by the networking and the kind of advertising that they can do for us, but also in participating in our Volunteer Observer program, which is a program that we have set up to locate and characterize the plastic pollution. So if anyone wants to be involved in that, it would be most welcome. And in terms of services that we can provide, we also have a toolkit that is available to all our sponsors and that we are happy to offer to the members of EBI as part of the partnership that we have with EBI, which are awareness-raising tools that we are going to make available to all boaters, including a digital handbook to plastic waste collection that can be very useful. We have a similar handbook for pickup garbages on beaches and natural places, and we are going to do another one for the marine waste collection that recreational boaters can do if they want. And we also are going to work on a code of best practices to help people reduce the plastic footprint, their plastic footprint, and increase their commitment to ocean protection. I saw that there was a question just in the chat room about opening branches of SeaCleaners abroad. So thank you very much for the question. And well, if people, we rely a lot on volunteers' work. So if people want to help and open a branch for us, we are very happy to discuss about it, and they should feel free to contact us through you, Philippe, if it's okay, if you don't mind. And we are very happy to discuss about it. And that would be the end for me.
Thank you very much, Valerie. And yes, also from our side, I would really encourage everyone who's on this tour, on this video conference, and also watching afterwards on YouTube to get in touch with EBI if you are interested in any of the activities that Valerie just presented. It's really a fantastic initiative and one that we're really proud to be a partner of. So we're almost at the end of this webinar. We do want to keep it short and not take too much time from you. But for those who are interested, there's a short video that shows a bit the impressive Manta boat that is currently being, or that will be built in the next few years. So we will share that video now as an end to this webinar. But I would already like to thank you, our speakers and our partners, the SeaCleaners, for this webinar and the good partnership. And thank you very much to all the participants. So we'll now share a video, and with that, afterwards, we will then close the webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Every minute, 17 tons of plastic waste are dumped into the oceans, totaling between 10 and 12 million tons of plastic waste each year. Welcome aboard the Manta, a giant of the seas, a unique solution designed to defend the ocean against plastic pollution and to provide a comprehensive answer through prevention and corrective action. Like the manta ray, which feeds by filtering seawater, the manta propels itself by swallowing floating plastic waste as small as 10 millimeters, which is then transformed into energy. The manta is capable of collecting up to 3 tons of waste per hour. 3 trawls trap plastics to a depth of 1 meter, mainly in coastal waters. The Mobulars, 2 multi-service boats on board, will collect waste in shallow or narrow areas. Versatile, they collect micro-waste, macro-waste and hydrocarbons in rough coastal waters and rivers with strong currents, and also in calm and protected waters. Each Mobular can collect and store up to 10 cubic meters of waste. The macro waste floating on the surface of the water is drawn into the Manta by collection carousels located between the hulls. The waste then travels to the onboard waste management plant, located at the heart of the vessel, to be transformed. The waste is first sent to a sorting unit where operators separate it manually according to its nature. Metal, glass and aluminium wastes are stored to be brought back to land to be recycled through local waste management streams. Organic materials are returned to the water. The plastic waste is shredded and transformed into pellets before being sent to the waste-to-energy conversion unit. The real masterpiece of the onboard plant is the waste-to-energy conversion unit that melts the plastic pellets at high temperature through pyrolysis and transforms them into synthetic gas. The syngas then passes through a turbine which produces electricity. That electricity in turn will power all of the Manta's equipment. Its onboard plant, cockpit, batteries and propulsion units. During the conversion process, heat emissions and waste gases are recovered, supporting the Manta's principles for an eco-friendly solution. The Manta is capable of collecting 5 to 10,000 metric tons per year and processing 100% of the waste collected on board. The Manta is powered by renewable energy sources, equipped with hybrid propulsion and automatic rigs. It is an ambassador of clean navigation technologies with a minimal environmental footprint, targeting an average of 75% energy autonomy. Additionally, the Manta is a state-of-the-art science lab on plastic pollution. Scientific missions will be hosted on board, and awareness and prevention platforms will be open to the general public during the boat's stopovers. Combining high technology and eco-consciousness, the Manta will travel to the world's major estuaries and river mouths where floating plastic waste is known to be concentrated. It is urgent to take action now. The Manta will make it possible.
Again, thank you very much to everyone. Have a nice afternoon.
Thank you.